So in this lecture, we are going to continue with the diversity of the prokaryotes. So the first life form on Earth is hypothesized to be a prokaryotic life form. So around 3.5 billion years ago. And since then, prokaryotes have survived until today. So in a way, we can say that prokaryotes are the most successful group of life forms on Earth because they have survived until today from 3.5 billion years ago. In fact, some groups of prokaryotes have remained unchanged until today. So previously, scientists have grouped these prokaryotes under just one kingdom they called Monera. Okay, so if you can remember the 5-kingdom system, the 5th kingdom there was Monera, or the bacteria. And then later on, we found out that there are eubacteria, or true bacteria, and the archaea, or the ancient bacteria. Until eventually now, we have proven through genetic analysis that the archaea and bacteria are actually fundamentally different from each other. Enough difference so that they will both be in separate domains. So presently, there are 3 domains of life: the bacteria, the archaea, those 2 are prokaryotes, and then eukarya, where plants, animals, fungi, and protists belong. So this taxonomy of bacteria and archaea is actually really complicated because there are more types of bacteria and archaea than, say, animals or plants. In fact, shown here are 3 of the volumes of the books used by systematists to actually document the different types of prokaryotes. So this is called the Burgess Manual. Okay, so if you want to be a microbiologist, there will be a time that you really have to master this particular grouping of prokaryotes, which until now is still changing. So this is the 2nd edition already. So we can see here for volume 1, this is for the archaea. If you can see the subtitle here at the bottom. And then here we have volume 2 for the proteobacteria. And then here I have volume 4, okay? And there are many more types of prokaryotes here. So these books, Burgess Manual, they contain extensive dichotomous keys, descriptions of all of the known prokaryotes. Okay? And a few taxonomic groups of these are monophyletic, but others are scattered. So this is what I was talking about, that it's very confusing because every year a new group might be broken or merged with another group. And this is a never-ending journey to finding out what is really the true phylogeny of these prokaryotes. So here we have a phylogeny based on what we know currently. In fact, this is from the 11th edition of Campbell. And we can see here the 3 main domains of life. So from the universal ancestor, okay, there was a branching into 2 branches, okay, the sister taxa. So the bacteria are all in one branch, while on the other sister taxon, we have both the archaea and the eukarya. So we can say that we are more closely related to archaea than to bacteria. And in fact, archaea, although they are prokaryotic, are more closely related to us than they are to bacteria. So it's really mind-boggling to fathom that particular relationship because both of them are prokaryotes. Yet one group of prokaryotes are more closely related to us than to the other group of prokaryotes. So go figure that out. So in this particular lecture, we will be looking in general on these different groups under the prokaryotes. Well, particularly the bacteria. And then we will just generalize the archaea. So thanks to DNA analysis, we are able to actually classify prokaryotes beyond, their appearance, which is already very difficult to distinguish from each other. So now we have used DNA technology to do that. So bacteria include the vast majority of prokaryotic species that are familiar to us. In fact, some people might have never heard of the term archaea, but they know right away what bacteria are. Okay? So this is a generalized phylogenetic tree that shows us how the archaea are more closely related to the eukarya than to the bacteria, and how the clade of the bacteria is a sister clade to the clade including eukarya and archaea. So for the bacteria, there are 5 main groups. So we'll start first with the proteobacteria. These are the gram-negative bacteria, the ones that stain pink when gram-stained. Okay? So many of them are anaerobes and other are aerobes, so very diverse. And I think this is the biggest group. And there are even 5 subgroups under proteobacteria. Okay, and those 5 subgroups are alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and epsilon proteobacteria. So first, we have the alpha proteobacteria. These contain species that are closely associated with their eukaryotic hosts, not necessarily as parasites. Okay, so many of them actually involve themselves as endosymbionts inside eukaryotic cells, just like your mutualistic rhizobium bacteria that live in the root nodules of leguminous plants. And we even have agrobacterium named after its role in agriculture, like how it associates itself with crops and help the crops grow. Okay, because both of these can produce or can fix nitrogen out of the air, and that's what the plant uses. So here's a picture of rhizobium. This is, of course, under electron microscopy, and they are seen here inside the root nodule of a leguminous plant. So rhizobia and agrobacteria belong to the alpha proteobacteria group. Then we have the beta proteobacteria. One member, very distinct, is Nitrosomonas, which can convert ammonium into nitrite. Okay, so this is one of the bacteria that are involved in the chain of conversion from gaseous nitrogen gas, okay, or atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates. So here, it's like the first stage, ammonium first, and then to nitrite. Because nitrate, if you can remember, is NO3 minus. So Nitrosomonas is mainly involved in the first stage. Another bacterium, like Rhizobium, will be the one to convert this into nitrate later on. Okay? So many of species are aquatic and even pathogens. So this is Nitrosomonas under transmission electron micrograph, beta subgroup of proteobacteria. And then we have the gamma proteobacteria. This group includes sulfur bacteria, like I think one of the largest cells in prokaryotic origin, okay, or in the prokaryote group, the Theomargarita namibiensis, okay, also known as the sulfur pearl of Namibia. I think that's the meaning of the name, the scientific name, is under gamma proteobacteria. Some, like Legionella, is responsible for Legionnaire's disease. And then we have Salmonella, the one that we can get out of unwashed or improperly washed meat, like chicken. And then we have Vibrio cholerae, or the Vibrio in general, that are marine, but this particular species here is the one that can cause cholera. And our beloved Escherichia coli belongs also to this group, the gamma proteobacteria, which can become pathogen when they have the chance to. But normally, they live in our intestines without even harming us. So this is a picture of the Theomargarita namibiensis cells. Okay, so this is one cell, and it's so big as a prokaryotic cell that it's almost as big or even bigger than the eyes, the compound eyes of your Drosophila, your fruit fly. So try looking at a fruit fly's eye. That's how this one cell of the Theomargarita namibiensis would be in size. And then we have the delta proteobacteria, which contain weird types of bacteria we call myxobacteria, because they're like fungi. Because they can produce spores, they are drought resistant, and they produce fruiting bodies, just like how fungi do. Okay? And another member is this Delovibrio, which are actually carnivorous bacteria that can drill onto the cells of other bacteria and eat the contents. So here's a picture, a micrograph of a myxobacterium. You can see here how they really resemble fungi, but they are actually bacteria. Then we have the epsilon proteobacteria, which includes pathogens like the Campylobacter, which can cause blood poisoning. And then we have Helicobacter pylori, the one which can cause ulcers. Okay, so this is an example of a bacterium species that can survive in acidic environments. So this is a micrograph of the Helicobacter pylori. And then the second group of bacteria after the proteobacteria are the chlamydias. These are parasitic bacteria, and they are small enough to actually live inside other cells. Okay? And they are, here's an example, Chlamydia trachomatis, which can cause blindness, and pneumococcal urethritis, which can be transmitted during sexual intercourse. So here are the chlamydias, the cells here, as pointed by the arrows, living inside a bigger cell. So they are parasites. The third group of bacteria are the spirochetes. Okay, these bacteria are helical and gram-negative, of course, and they include Treponema pallidum, which can cause syphilis. Okay, your sexually transmitted disease, syphilis, is caused by Treponema. And we have Borrelia burgdorferi, which can cause Lyme disease. Okay, and their host is usually the ticks. Okay, so some ticks might harbor this Borrelia species in their guts, and once they bite humans, especially humans, it can cause transmission of this bacterium, which can cause Lyme disease. So this is Leptospira. An example of a spirochete, and you can see the really tight coil of the spirals here. And then the fourth group of bacteria are the cyanobacteria. So these are gram-negative again, and they are photoautotrophs. And I think they are the first microorganisms or organisms that have released oxygen as a waste material into the Earth's atmosphere. And some of them are hypothesized to have given rise to the chloroplasts that we see in plants and algae today. Okay? And they are also very important components or parts of phytoplanktons, in the bodies of water, freshwater or marine. So here are examples. Here's an example of a cyanobacteria. So here we have oscillatoria. Okay? So oscillatoria again is composed of a colony of cells that live together. So they seem like one long multicellular organism, but each cell, each segment is actually an independent cell. And the fifth type of bacteria are the gram-positive bacteria. Okay? So, as opposed to the proteobacteria, which are all gram-negative, here we have the gram-positive bacteria. They include the actinomycetes, which are fungus-like and which are also important sources of antibiotics, like your actinomycin. And they also include spore-forming bacilli, like the Bacillus anthracis, which can cause anthrax, and Clostridium botulinum, which can cause botulism or food poisoning. And then we also have the cocci bacteria, Staphylococcus and Streptococcus. They are also gram-positive. So these are the bacteria with just one layer of cell wall, one thick layer, which can absorb the dye during gram staining, and they would appear purple under the microscope. Mycoplasmas, which could rival your smallest bacteria in size, and they lack the cell wall of the bacteria so that their shapes are sort of pleomorphic, meaning to say they can be of any shape, also belong to the gram-positive bacteria. So here we have the Streptomyces, source of streptomycin, okay, antibiotic. And here we have mycoplasmas, the small cells that you see on this nerve cell. Oh, sorry, this is not a nerve cell, it's a fibroblast that are crowding the cell, okay, and are about to go inside the cell and parasitize it. Then, of course, after the bacteria, there are 5 groups. I hope you can still recall what they are. We have the archaea, which are more closely related to us than to bacteria. Okay, so here's the branch, just to remind us in the phylogenetic tree. And here are some characteristics between the 3 domains. So in terms of the nuclear envelope, both bacteria and archaea don't have that because they're prokaryotic. They also don't have organelles that are enclosed in membranes. And only bacteria have that cell wall made of peptidoglycan. Okay, archaea don't have those. In terms of membrane lipids, archaea have unique lipids in their cell membranes that are not found in bacteria and eukarya. In terms of RNA polymerase, there's only one type in bacteria, while eukarya and archaea share several types of RNA polymerases. Okay? And in terms of initiator of amino acid protein synthesis during translation, okay, the starting amino acid in archaea and eukarya are methionine, while in bacteria, it's 4-methionine. So in terms of introns, bacteria rarely have introns or intervening sequences in their genome, while in archaea and eukarya, they do. Most prominent in eukarya, like in humans. In terms of antibiotics, only bacteria respond unfavorably. Okay, they are inhibited by antibiotics. So that's why if you take antibiotics, don't worry about the archaea living in your body because they are not going to be targeted by those. Nor the eukarya, like the fungus living in your body. You need another antibiotic type for that. Okay? Antifungal. In terms of histones, okay, histones are the proteins associated with the chromosomes. Bacteria don't have those, while eukarya and archaea have. In terms of circular chromosome, like the plasmids, bacteria and archaea have those, while eukarya, we don't have those. And growth at extreme temperatures, archaea are the only ones that are capable of this. So in terms of pathogenicity, okay, being a pathogen, it's usually bacteria that are pathogens and some eukarya like fungi and amoeba, okay? But archaea, I haven't heard of a record yet that an archaea caused a disease to humans. So archaeas can be grouped into two main types as shown here, okay, but I'm sure there are more. There's another one we call methanogens, okay? And most of them are extremophiles, meaning to say they love extreme environments where they are free to live by themselves and not compete with other organisms. So we have those that love really salty environments. We call them extreme halophiles. And those that love extremely high temperatures, extreme thermophiles, okay? And then we have those that love extremely low temperatures. I think we call them extreme psychrophiles. And then we have those that can produce methane, okay? And many of them live in the guts of termites. So termites are contributors of methane, which is a greenhouse gas on Earth. And also cows and termites. Okay, and these methanogens are poisoned by elemental oxygen. So in terms of new research right now, there is a group, okay, of archaeal phylogeny called Lokiarchaeota, which may represent the sister group of the eukaryotes. Okay? So in this branching here in the phylogenetic tree, there is a sister group that's not shown still, okay, that somehow shares an ancestor directly with the eukaryotes, with us. And it belongs to domain archaea, this Lokiarchaeota. Okay? The characteristics could shed light on the evolution of eukaryotes from their prokaryotic ancestors. In fact, scientists call this the missing link in unicellular organism evolution. The missing link between prokaryotes and eukaryotes.